Welcome to Movie Recap Vault. Today we're diving into the movie Oldboy. The film opens on a rooftop where a disheveled man grips a terrified stranger by the tie and stops him from falling. Before explaining himself, the story jumps back to Dae-su, a drunken businessman causing loud trouble inside a Seoul police station. Dae-su boasts, curses, and remembers that it is his young daughter's birthday, while his friend Ju-won arrives to take him home. Outside in the rain, Dae-su calls home from a phone booth, promising his little daughter that he will return with her present. Moments later, he vanishes. Dae-su wakes inside a sealed room, and no guard will tell him who imprisoned him or why. Months become years. Food arrives through a hatch, sleeping gas fills the room, and Dae-su is periodically drugged and groomed. Television becomes his only window outside, until a shocking news report reveals that his wife has been murdered while he disappeared. Worse, the evidence points to Dae-su. His blood and fingerprints were planted, turning the missing husband into the prime suspect. With no trial and no explanation, he uses television as calendar, school, church, companion, and constant proof that the world keeps moving. He writes down everyone he ever hurt, searching his memory for an enemy cruel enough to steal his entire life. The list grows into a prison diary, forcing Dae-su to admit that his seemingly ordinary life contained more cruelty than he remembered. He trains his body, tattoos the passing years, and slowly digs through the wall with a chopstick, planning an impossible escape. Year after year, historic events pass on television while Dae-su keeps digging, measuring his captivity against a rapidly changing country. By the 15th year, his tunnel is almost finished, and he obsessively plans what he will eat first and how he will survive outside. Just before he can escape, the familiar gas returns. Someone enters, hypnotizes him, dresses him, and prepares him for release. Under hypnosis, Dae-su hears calm instructions while unconscious, never knowing that his captor is carefully programming what happens after freedom. He wakes inside a suitcase on a rooftop, suddenly free after 15 years, carrying cash, a phone, and no explanation. The rooftop scene from the opening now makes sense. Dae-su saves a suicidal man but is too consumed to stay and listen. He briefly tells the stranger about his imprisonment, then walks away before the man can finish explaining why he wanted to die. As Dae-su leaves, the stranger jumps anyway. The moment underlines how completely revenge has narrowed Dae-su's attention entirely to himself. Back on the streets, Dae-su learns his old home is gone and that society now remembers him as his wife's murderer. When street thugs confront him, 15 years of shadowboxing suddenly matter. Dae-su discovers that his trained body can now fight back. Hungry for something alive, he enters a sushi restaurant where a young chef named Mi-do watches the strange, intensely focused customer. Dae-su recognizes Mi-do from television, then receives a call from the man who imprisoned him, turning dinner into the next deliberate clue. The caller refuses to identify himself. Instead, he tells Dae-su to ask why he was imprisoned and to review his whole life. Dae-su devours a live octopus, but the strain and hidden manipulations suddenly overwhelm him. He collapses before he can continue the hunt. Mi-do takes the unconscious stranger home and cares for him, even though she knows almost nothing about the man in her apartment. Dae-su wakes feverish in Mi-do's apartment. She gives him medicine and sets boundaries, while he struggles with years of isolation. Mi-do explains that she brought him home because she liked him, but insists that intimacy must wait until she feels ready. She finally tells him her name and promises that, when she is ready, a song he remembers will be their private signal. Their shared loneliness creates a strange bond. Mi-do describes hallucinations of ants, while Dae-su recognizes the same emptiness from prison. With Mi-do's help, Dae-su searches for his daughter and learns she was adopted abroad after her mother's brutal death. He receives her address and directions to his wife's grave, but rejects reunion for now. First, he wants the man truly responsible. The same dumplings fed him for 15 years, so Dae-su starts sampling restaurants, hoping one familiar taste will reveal the prison. Eventually, he recognizes the exact flavor. A delivery route from the restaurant finally gives him a path toward the hidden private jail. Dae-su studies delivery information and phone records, narrowing the search until the mysterious institution finally has a real physical location. Mi-do follows as he tracks the food delivery, but Dae-su's growing paranoia makes him suspicious even of the person helping him. The trail leads to an ordinary building hiding an illegal prison business, where people can secretly pay to make someone disappear. Dae-su enters and confronts the manager, Mr. Park, demanding the real name of the client who purchased 15 years of captivity. When Park refuses, Dae-su tears out his teeth one by one. Park still cannot identify the client because he never saw him. Park does have one useful thing, a recording of the customer's order. Dae-su takes it, badly wounded but finally holding useful evidence. Park's men swarm the hallway as Dae-su tries to leave. Outnumbered and stabbed, he refuses to surrender the only lead he has. Armed only with a hammer and raw endurance, Dae-su fights through a packed corridor of attackers in one long, exhausting assault. He keeps advancing even after taking a knife wound, beating down one opponent after another until the corridor is finally his. Outside, soaked in blood, Dae-su wonders whether revenge can ever restore the man he was before the prison turned him monstrous. A well-dressed stranger helps the injured Dae-su into a taxi, quietly proving that powerful people are still steering his movements. The recording explains how the private prison operates. Clients pay to erase enemies without killing them, sometimes for many years. Most importantly, Dae-su hears the prison order, 15 years, because he supposedly talked too much. The phrase points toward his past. He asks Ju-hwan whether his old habit of gossiping created enemies, and the two begin combing through people from Dae-su's youth. An online message from someone calling himself Evergreen turns the search into a game and warns Dae-su that Mi-do can be targeted. Dae-su traces Evergreen through the internet, but the username is another deliberate breadcrumb, designed to make him keep blindly playing. Evergreen finally sets rules. Discover who he is and why by July 5th, or the women Dae-su loves will keep dying. Dae-su reaches the wealthy mastermind, Lee Woo-jin, who calmly asks whether Dae-su wants immediate revenge or the truth behind everything. Woo-jin claims a remote can stop his own pacemaker, making torture useless. Kill him now, and Dae-su loses the answer forever. He also argues that revenge is only medicine for pain. Once the target disappears, the original grief will simply return. Dae-su returns home and finds Mi-do bound by Park's gang. The prison manager wants revenge for the teeth Dae-su ripped out. Park restrains Dae-su and prepares to repeat the same dental torture on him, while Mi-do remains helpless nearby. Before Park can start, Woo-jin's bodyguard arrives with a suitcase of cash. The payment buys Dae-su and Mi-do's release. Park accepts the money and backs off. As he leaves, Dae-su threatens to cut off the hand that touched Mi-do. Afterward, Mi-do admits that Woo-jin threatened her. Dae-su understands that keeping her close now makes her a direct target. The pair pack their things and leave. Their dependence on each other deepens as Dae-su's search becomes more dangerous. Mi-do's feelings become unmistakable, and Dae-su finally allows himself tenderness after years when every human connection was taken away. They sleep together, believing their relationship is one private thing Woo-jin cannot control, even as his trap is already closing. After their night together, gas again fills the room. Dae-su realizes Woo-jin can still enter their lives whenever he wants. When they wake, Dae-su searches for a transmitter and finds evidence that Woo-jin has been tracking their movements since his release. At an internet cafe, he and Mi-do search the word Evergreen and discover an Oldboy's website for Sangnak High School. The school connection leads to a name, Lee Woo-jin, a former student from Dae-su's own youth, previously forgotten among hundreds of faces. Yearbooks reveal another name, Lee Soo-ah. Ju-hwan remembers she died after falling from a dam shortly after Dae-su transferred away. Ju-hwan repeats the old rumor that Soo-ah was sexually promiscuous, but his careless gossip reaches the one person who cannot tolerate it. Woo-jin, secretly listening, kills Ju-hwan and coldly insists that his sister was never what the school rumors claimed. Dae-su now has only days before July 5th. The date links Woo-jin's deadline to Soo-ah's death and makes the old memory suddenly urgent. Park, now missing a hand because of Woo-jin, cooperates. Dae-su hides Mi-do in the rebuilt prison until the deadline passes. He also questions Park about mysterious visitors during captivity and learns that a hypnotist came to him several times. Dae-su tracks down former classmates and asks who Soo-ah was secretly dating, trying to reconstruct the rumor before the deadline expires. A classmate finally points him toward the right story, and Dae-su's questions begin unlocking memories he buried decades earlier. He returns to the old school, where the empty grounds pull him back to the day a teenage Dae-su first noticed Soo-ah. In memory, a bicycle and familiar paths lead him deeper into the past, where casual teenage curiosity began the catastrophe. Young Dae-su is a new student, already talkative and intrusive. He becomes curious about Soo-ah and starts watching her movements. He follows Soo-ah through the school, not understanding that the secret he is about to witness belongs to Woo-jin as well. Dae-su secretly sees Soo-ah meeting a boy in private, and the encounter immediately becomes irresistible gossip for a careless teenager. The hidden couple become physically intimate. Dae-su watches only long enough to understand the scandal, then slips away with the secret. The boy is Woo-jin, and Soo-ah is his sister. Their incestuous relationship is the truth Dae-su saw but later forgot. Dae-su tells Ju-hwan what he saw and asks him to keep quiet. The promise fails almost immediately, and the rumor spreads. Back in the present, Dae-su finally understands the motive. His careless gossip destroyed Sua's reputation and became Woo-jin's lifelong obsession. Do asks him to abandon revenge and run away, but Dae-su cannot stop now that the answer is finally within reach. He goes to Woo-jin's tower alone, riding upward with Woo-jin's bodyguard toward the final confrontation in the penthouse. Inside, Dae-su accuses Woo-jin of imprisoning him over a school rumor and demands that Woo-jin admit the revenge is complete. Woo-jin answers by forcing Dae-su to revisit Sua's death, insisting that remembering the affair is only the beginning of the truth. He explains that the rumor grew until people claimed Sua was pregnant, and she began psychologically experiencing the invented pregnancy herself. Woo-jin blames Dae-su's tongue for his sister's collapse, while Dae-su argues that Woo-jin's incest created the danger in the first place. The confrontation becomes a battle over guilt. Woo-jin says Dae-su forgot because Sua's suffering never mattered enough to him. Then Woo-jin reveals that Dae-su and Mi-do were both hypnotically conditioned after his release and deliberately guided toward each other. The question was never why Dae-su was imprisoned, Woo-jin says. The real question was why he was released after 15 years. Woo-jin opens a purple album and shows photographs of Dae-su's lost family, shifting the final puzzle from revenge to something personal. The photographs follow Dae-su's daughter as she grows up, until the adult face in the album becomes unmistakably Mi-do. Horrified, Dae-su attacks Woo-jin's bodyguard. The fight crashes through glass as Dae-su tries to reach the man who designed the trap. The bodyguard overpowers Dae-su despite severe injuries, but Woo-jin suddenly shoots his own man when the struggle threatens his plan. Woo-jin explains the full design. Mi-do is Dae-su's daughter, secretly raised and hypnotically guided into falling in love with him. Mi-do still does not know. Woo-jin orders Park to give her a matching purple box containing the photographs that prove everything. Dae-su calls Mi-do and begs her not to open the box. Then he pleads with Woo-jin to keep the secret buried. He drops to his knees, admits the damage caused by his gossip, and offers Woo-jin anything if Mi-do can remain ignorant. Dae-su humiliates himself like a dog, barking and begging. Revenge vanishes. Protecting Mi-do from the truth becomes his only goal. Woo-jin watches Dae-su's humiliation and hides his reaction behind a purple handkerchief, appearing to cry before revealing a cruel smile. Desperate to silence the tongue Woo-jin blamed, Dae-su cuts it out himself. The bloody sacrifice finally wins mercy for Mi-do. Woo-jin calls Park and stops the box from being opened, then leaves Dae-su alive with the secret he cannot bear. Before leaving, Woo-jin gives Dae-su the supposed pacemaker remote. Dae-su presses it, but it only plays a recording of him with Mi-do. Woo-jin enters the elevator alone. With Dae-su's humiliation complete, the victory leaves him facing the grief he never escaped. His memory returns to the dam, where Sua slips over the edge and Woo-jin clings to her hand above the water. Sua asks him to let go, and the memory ends in loss. Back in the elevator, Woo-jin finally shoots himself. Months later, Dae-su contacts the hypnotist who once programmed him and asks for one final intervention in his own memory. In a snowy wilderness, he explains everything by letter. The hypnotist agrees to try separating the unbearable knowledge from the man who loves Mi-do. She guides him back to Woo-jin's penthouse and imagines splitting him into two selves, Dae-su who forgets and a monster who remembers. After the hypnosis, Dae-su lies alone in the snow. Mi-do finds him, still unaware of the secret that nearly destroyed them. Mi-do embraces him and says she loves him. Dae-su smiles through tears, leaving it uncertain whether the hypnosis